Welcome again to another episode of Learn the TOEFL the Easy Way with Teacher Fish. In this video, we will feature the second question type of the TOEFL listening section called Detail Question. Be sure to watch the video in full, because I will be giving some tips to make answering a detail question easier. Detail questions check the test taker's ability to understand factual information and data that are indicated in the listening passage. Detail questions typically are asked in a lecture-based passage. However, there is a possibility that these questions will also be asked in a conversation-based passage. Different from a main idea or gist question, where you have to listen for the overall theme of the passage, this question type asks you to listen for and note down specific details. Although majority of detail questions still focus on major details that are related to the main topic of a lecture or conversation, rather than ask about minor ones. But when there is a long digression or temporary departure from the topic, a detail question may be asked about it. There are two possible formats for a detail question. Let us look into them. The first is the conventional one, where there are 4 answer choices, and you just have to select one answer. One answer questions may appear on the test like this. According to the professor, what is one way that X can affect Y? What are X? What resulted from the construction of X? According to the professor, what is the main problem with X? On the other hand, some detail questions will require a test taker to choose more than one answer. The question may require you to select 2 or even more answers. It may simply ask you to click on 2 answers, or at times, several statements will be presented, and you have to indicate whether each statement is a fact or non-fact. Remember, although a detail question may ask you to choose more than one answer, it still corresponds to 1 point. And so, the second type of detail question may look like these. According to the finance officer, what documents should the student submit in order to qualify for the student loan program? Click 2 answers. Another type is, in the lecture, the professor illustrates a number of facts about X. Indicate whether each of the following is a fact about X. Place a checkmark in the correct box. Now it's time for us to learn about the strategies that would make answering a detail question more accurately. Pay attention as I would share with you the techniques we use in class. So the first strategy is to be able to recognize the main topic of the passage. Remember, in our video about main idea or gist question, I mentioned about how the main topic sets an outline for the other details that you have to listen for. Here is where it helps. Anyway, after listening for the main topic or idea, concentrate on any factual information about it. Also, set aside minor details. Although the question is named as detail question, keep in mind that the TOEFL, in most parts, focuses on major details. Minor details, on the other hand, pose as distractors, meaning their purpose is to merely confuse you. Listen to a part of a lecture to see what I am talking about.
Listen to part of a lecture in an art class.
Most pottery has 2 basic functions. It can be used to hold various items or for display purposes. You can see the difference here. This pot isn't decorated at all. It's plain and ordinary. Yet this one here is. The first pot was made to be used, probably for cooking. The second is rather ornate. It's for decoration.
In the professor's lecture, the part where she said, most pottery has 2 basic functions, which is the main idea of the lecture, sets the outline of what you are supposed to take notes of. While the parts where she mentioned about cooking and ornate are the 2 major details that illustrates the functions of pottery, and is possible that the question would be asked about them. The next tip is to take good notes. I again have a video about how you can efficiently take notes, especially with long passages, so please check it out. One thing to remember, sometimes, or in fact most of the time, the answer to a detail question is paraphrased, so expect that the answer to the question will not be exactly the same as the professor or speaker says it. So, having good notes will ensure you with the details you need, even if it was paraphrased. All you have to do is to consult what you have on paper. Listen again to a sample lecture.
Listen to part of a lecture in an art history class. The art created today owes a lot to artistic advances made during the Renaissance. This was a period in Europe from around, let's say, 1400 to 1600. However, prior to the Renaissance, art was much, much different. The Middle Ages came before the Renaissance. Art from this period, from medieval times, had three main characteristics. First, it was mostly religious in nature. Next, many of the surviving artworks were made of durable materials such as gold, silver, and gems. Third, medieval art was two-dimensional in appearance. During the Middle Ages, religion, that is, Christianity, dominated life. Also, artworks were expensive to make then. The Catholic Church, which was wealthy, could afford to pay for art, but most private individuals could not. This explains why religious themes dominated medieval art. Most artwork was made for the insides of churches, for the walls, the ceilings, and even the windows. Artists also illustrated Bibles and other religious books by drawing pictures in them. Many works of art made in the Middle Ages didn't last very long. The ones that have survived were mostly made of precious metals and gems, stone, wood, and glass. In addition, some paintings have survived. These paintings, and those on church walls and stained glass windows and in books, depict two-dimensional scenes. The pictures lack depth and appear flat. It wasn't until the Renaissance that artists learned about perspective. Perspective, by the way, is the ability to give paintings depth and to make them look three-dimensional.
Now for the question. The professor describes a number of facts about art in the Middle Ages. Indicate whether each of the following is a fact about art in the Middle Ages. 1. Most medieval art has religious themes. 2. Artists often drew pictures in Bibles. 3. Many medieval paintings contained gems. 4. Medieval art looks three-dimensional. Statements 1 and 2 are both factual. For the first statement, the professor mentions, this explains why religious themes dominated medieval art. As for statement number 2, the professor says, artists also illustrated Bibles and other religious books by drawing pictures in them. Statement 3 is not a fact, because the speaker does not mention anything about medieval paintings having gems in them. Likewise, statement or answer choice 4 is non-fact, because it is the Renaissance art that looks three-dimensional, and not medieval art which looks more like two-dimensional. As you may have noticed, the answer choices contains words that are not exactly the same as what the professor uses in his lecture. Like the first statement where the word, most, replaced the professor's word, dominated, when he mentions about this fact. There is also a slight rearrangement of wordings, or a little restructuring of the sentence. This is what you need to anticipate when it's your time to answer a detail question, as said earlier. The last strategy is, when in doubt of an answer, be smart. Choose the one that most closely talk about the main topic of the passage. Going back to strategy 1, where we learn to ignore minor information, this means the answer to a detail question is something that is closely related to the main idea. In addition, keep in mind that important information is repeated several times within the passage. So it is also wise to take notes of these repeated information. Let us again listen to a sample.
We have talked about the anatomy of the highly coveted freshwater species, the Pterophyllum altums, in our previous class. So today, we are going to focus on the several reasons this fish, despite the difficulty of owning it, allures the attention of many fish hobbyists across the globe. For one, the sheer size, posture, and unique beauty of the Pterophyllum altum is just irresistible. For many fish enthusiasts and for the trained eyes, the characteristics of the fish makes it stand out among the other subspecies in its class. Another factor the Pterophyllum ultums captivate the eyes of many enthusiasts is the rarity of it in the hobby. The period of collection for this species spans only for a couple of months, usually begins in July, and although quite a number of species are collected, only a few manage to survive the long journey they have to go through. Many of them have to be transferred to different hands, the fishermen, middlemen, cargo people, then fish sellers from different countries, before they reach a fish hobbyist's aquarium. The excruciating process involved in the trade is just unbearable for some of the species. So, out of a number of fish collected, only a few that survived, makes the fish quite a rare find in the hobby, and are able to be put on sale. In effect, hobbyists race against each other, just to get a couple of pieces in their possession.
As with our example, obviously the main idea is the reasons the Pterophyllum ultums catch the attention of many fish hobbyists. But if in case you missed it, do not worry. Through the course of the lecture, the professor mentions the term Pterophyllum ultums several times. So when unsure of which answer choice to pick, consider the one that talks about the reasons it catches the attention of many, the main idea of the lecture, and the statements where the term Pterophyllum ultums was repeated several times. By doing so, you'd have a better chance of choosing the correct answer. To check your understanding and to see if the strategies would work for you, let us have a practice exercise. Here is a part of a lecture.
Listen to part of a lecture in an archaeology class. Mound building cultures were some of the earliest Native American civilizations. As the name suggests, these people built mounds of earth. Some mounds have been found in the states of Illinois, Louisiana, Mississippi, Ohio, and a few other locations. The Mississippi River area had a large proportion of mound building cultures. The mounds vary in size and shape. Some are just a few feet high, while others rise more than 30 meters in height. The longest one is Serpent Mound in Ohio. It's over 300 meters long and is, as its name implies, shaped like a snake. Here on the screen you can see a picture of it. Fascinating, isn't it? Notice how low it is, as well as its snake-like shape. Here's another mound. Take a look. It's the highest Native American mound in the U.S. It's more than 30 meters high and is located in Illinois. The oldest mounds date back to around 3500 BC. Native tribes were still building them when the Spanish arrived in the mid-1600s, but by the time others, such as the French and English, reached these areas, the mound building had ceased. Interestingly, the local natives didn't always know who had built the mounds. The reason for this was that the mound builders had likely been killed by European diseases such as smallpox.
Why did they build these mounds? What purpose did they serve?
It varied from place to place. In some cases, they had religious purposes. For instance, the Natchez people, they lived in what's Mississippi today, they built mounds to worship the sun. Here on the screen is an artist's representation of what a small mound with a temple on it may have looked like. See? And other tribes buried their leaders in the mounds. Some excavations have found human remains and artifacts inside mounds, too. There is speculation that some mounds were astronomical observatories, but no one is certain about that.
Here is the question. Which area had many mound building cultures? A. The region around Mississippi River. B. The land near the Atlantic Ocean. C. The states beside the Pacific Ocean. D. The area close to the Great Lakes. Choice A is the area that had many mound building cultures. In the lecture, the professor says, the Mississippi River area had a large portion of mound building cultures. Answer choices B, C, and D are not part of the professor's lecture. We have again reached the end of our lesson video about another TOEFL listening question type, detail question. I hope that after watching the video, you now find the question easier to answer. I have uploaded a practice exercise about detail question, so try to visit my channel and practice your newly learned skill. If you have comments, suggestions, and feedback, please leave them on the comment section, and I will do my best to answer them as fast as I can. Also, please do not forget to press like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, so that you'd be informed every time I upload a new video. And always remember, the TOEFL is not difficult, if you know what to do. With that, see you again on the next episode of Learn the TOEFL the Easy Way with Teacher Fish.